So, for the latest on the French parliamentary elections, we're joined now by Hamid Chriet, political commentator and researcher on France and North Africa. He's in Paris and France. Hamid, a very good evening to you, sir. From what we're seeing, Macron's alliance, while it stays ahead, there's been a surge of opposition on both sides, the left and the right. Just how close a call is it?
Well, it is clear that Emmanuel Macron has a very less parliamentary, for his parliament. The leftists have more than 119 seats. So I think now Emmanuel Macron will not be able to maneuver his own policies. And it's, of course, it's a victory for the leftists, particularly for the coalition in the French parliament, such as the political party, which is Melenchon party. So I believe now Macron has to compose or to make, in an alliance with the far right. This is the only thing that we can do in order to, manage and to govern the country.
And I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about what the implications are for, should he need to push through a bill, etc. But I mean, as we've mentioned before, that for the first time in 20 years, a newly elected president appears to have failed to muster an absolute majority in the National Assembly, which obviously won't do well for his domestic agenda. We've spoken about it. But does it effectively mean that this shifts the influence back to Parliament?
Well, I think he will probably have maybe a small majority in the French parliament, but they will have no confidence, vote of no confidence in the parliament, which such as, make strengthen the coalition, the opposition against Emmanuel Macron. And this will be a huge, tough exercise for Emmanuel Macron to govern the country. We will see, maybe we will have as well with the LS movement. Some kind of, reunification or emergency of, the Yellow Vest movement, which can be, give an important coalition against the French parliament. So I believe now Emmanuel Macron can, of course, have the majority, but it will be very difficult for him to govern the country. We've seen that there is a lot of protest in France about the, rate of retirement. So we've seen that the workers as well, they went on strike to condemn the police brutality and the social brutality in this government. So there's a lot of uncertainty for this government. Emmanuel Macron is will not be able to lead the country easier than he had and than he was. So I believe now we will have, of course, a huge crisis, democratic crisis. The third point is the abstention. More than 52% for the second round. People did not go to vote. So the abstention, it's the first political party. This is also, it's a very, very important point in the political map. The abstention is still there, and the major factors, the major challenge is to resolve this, abstention.
Now, just some of what we're told here is that Macron has threatened his cabinet if they lose. In fact, it's been said that the 15 ministers appointed by Macron who are running for a second round for the elections are in danger of being cut, including the Prime Minister, Elizabeth Borne. The stakes are high for them more than ordinary members. Why is that?
Well, I think there's more than 4 ministers that they have lost the, second round for this election. So I believe for Macron, it's a smash, on his face. I believe that Emmanuel Macron today cannot, govern the country. He doesn't have any credibility to govern the country. There's a lot of uncertainty in the government, a lot of anger. People are fed up with the inflation due to the Russian invasion in Ukraine. So I believe now people will, maybe go to the streets in order to, manage to show the anger in the streets. So it will be for the majority and for the opposition, both of them, a very difficult time to govern the country. This is remind me the French history in the Fourth Republic, when there's, when we have the instability and in the French Parliament. No one, had before in the Fourth Republic the majority in order to govern the country. So I believe there is a lot of mess in the French Parliament, and people, did not vote. People are not concerned about the, system, the French political system, the regime, and the institution. And I think this is the most dangerous thing for the, French people and for the elites.
Okay, so just maybe perhaps a recap on the election itself. How does it work? We know that there's been low voter turnout in the double digits, and this has been what not only threatened Macron winning in the first round, but what we're seeing now in terms of his centrist coalition winning, but something that has been responsible for giving the right a surge in these elections as well.
Well, yeah, we've seen that, of course, there is the leftist has, they have more than 119 seats. The, majority, the government of the majority has more than 210 seats in the French Parliament. So we will see if they will have the majority, the opposition. They are still counting, the seats in the French Parliament. So we're waiting for the final result that we will have soon.
Go back to what it means for Macron. So for his coalition, the ensemble, to be able to still pass some bills, his party, Le Fabrique, for instance, I believe that it will be much more dependent on its centrist allies than it was during its first term, particularly if he wants to pass contentious projects like the plan to raise the legal age of retirement from 65 from 62.
Well, Emmanuel Macron, of course, if he wants to pass any bill or any law, he will be dependent on his DeSantis and the right, rings in order to pass the old laws, or otherwise they will have a vote of not confidence. So I believe this will be very, tough exercise for the majority and the French president. That's why today we have a lot of uncertainty and instability in the French Parliament. So I believe now it's a huge, stakes for Emmanuel Macron to prove and to argument that he can, of course, govern the country and to strengthen his majority. But, unless he, use his strategy to take the far right, people will not vote for him. There's a lot of bills that he wants to pass, which are still, unpopular for the French people, such as the, increasing the range of retirement to 60 to 65. So I believe now Emmanuel Macron has to change his software, his political software, in order to convince the, other voters.
Would that also involve, beyond his coalition, having to reach across the aisle to the opposition benches for help?
Yes. Sorry, I didn't hear.
I was asking, would it mean, for instance, the difficulties he'll have to encounter, Mr. Macron having to even reach across the aisle to opposition lawmakers, most likely we believe to the right, if he was to secure the passage of a bill?
Well, I think it will be very difficult for him to pass any laws today, because when we have in our constitution, in French constitution, when we have 60 parliamentary, you can of course stop any law in order for the higher court as this constitution, the French constitution. So I believe it will be difficult for him to pass any law. He has to compose with other political party in order to pass any bills for him, and this will be a very tough exercise for him to maneuver his own policies. Emmanuel Macron also is the president of the European Parliament. His mandate will be finished soon, and this will be very difficult. So I believe now there's a lot of challenges for Emmanuel Macron in this second mandate.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Hamid Chriet, who is a political and security expert, there, researcher on France and North Africa. He speaks to us from Paris.